Hey everyone, once again, Two Noobs Talking coming at you, episode 8 with my buddy John Tracy. I'm Matt Craig. John, how you doing, man? What's going on?
How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Although, if I were a governor or a mayor, I don't think I would be doing too well right now, given the whole state of the situation. I'm just going to quickly share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Uh, let's just say things haven't exactly gone well for certain people in high authority.
Yes. Let's talk about Stephen Adler of Austin, Texas, which is 25 miles away from where I live.
Really
Yeah,
interesting. Okay.
he threatened a lockdown while he was in Cabo. While he was in Cabo, while he was in Cabo. I'll
While
just
he
say
was,
that 3
oh,
times.
so he wasn't threatening you in the Austin area. He was in Cabo on vacation, threatening you to not go
Yeah,
out.
yeah. It's not in Austin, Texas, which is 30 miles away from me.
Got
He
it.
was in
Okay.
Cabo, which is 175 miles away from
I
me,
see.
in another country.
Another country. Okay. There's also, there's a county supervisor who enjoyed her meal at one of her favorite restaurants, of course. Outdoor dining must be very nice. But then she, of course, voted prior to going to dinner at this place to shut that place down.
But her excuse of going there is that she wanted to support it because it's her favorite place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, priorities, John, come on. And then, of course, like Gavin Newsom, who we could just, I think, go off for maybe
Sure.
about, I don't know, 40, 45 minutes on just how much of a fool he's been. Going to
They
dine
call
in
him
Napa.
Gruesome Newsom.
Yeah, gruesome Newsom. Yeah, exactly. But then there's also the Denver mayor right before Thanksgiving. No, nothing is more important, John, than going home. But correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't go home to visit your family, right?
No.
You did not. Okay. Well, but you didn't tell anyone else not to travel, right? I mean, essentially, like it was important for you to stay home, right? And all that kind of stuff, all that kind of thing.
Mhm.
The mayor, though, flew from Denver to Mississippi to visit his family. You have a problem with that at all? After telling his Denver residents, stay home, don't travel? Might have a
Yeah,
problem?
especially because Mississippi has very little COVID restrictions. So
Might be a
causing
little.
COVID restrictions and then going to a state that has very little.
And what's so great about it is
I'm
that
just saying.
right prior to boarding the flight, he tweeted it out. Don't travel. I think that's even better because it's like, you're going onto an airplane. What's the difference? It doesn't seem to matter. Anyway. Then of
Morons.
course, like you've got a couple mayors. So mayors, decided to travel and all that kind of stuff. You have the DC mayor basically going to, Delaware to celebrate. We'll skip over Pelosi. But then of course, like give y'all Lightfoot, she's doing that. And then of course, my boy, just outside, just down the road, John, here in Philadelphia,
Love this
Mayor
guy.
Jim Kenney, he goes to Maryland. He goes to Maryland, John. He goes outside of the city limits and jumps the shark, goes to Maryland, dines in an indoor restaurant, but he also banned people from going into indoor restaurants in their own city, John.
He had a nice little cocktail. He had a nice little beer. Can
Nothing
I say
is
something
more
about
important than having beer. I'm with you on that, but I'm telling you,
yeah, not when you lock everybody down, you can't.
when you lock anyone else down from it. And then of course,
There's
like,
been a lot of winners in Philadelphia in their mayorships. A lot of winners.
oh, a lot of them.
Hopefully everybody catches my sarcasm. A lot of winners.
And you don't
Um,
have to tell me of the sarcasm because I have
me,
lived it. Let me tell you that right now. Exactly.
me too, and that's primarily why I left. Um,
Exactly.
he's no better than any of the rest of them.
We could go on and and we're making a light, funny heart of this,
Oh,
but
I love that New York nursing home Grim Reaper.
Reaper goes maskless in Georgia.
That's a great headline.
Love it.
Oh, who wrote that?
It's
Oh,
beautiful.
I love that guy, Andrew Como. You're my favorite. I, I'm
Absolute
us.
piece of work. He was nominated for an Emmy and actually won an Emmy, John.
Well, for
Won an
acting,
Emmy for his wonderful and fantastic media
performance.
presentations. So we should give him his due. We should give him an applause. You know, even though he killed 6,400 people in nursing homes, none of that matters. It all matters the fact that he was able to present COVID well in his state. So that,
Whatever.
nothing more important than that.
Idiot.
We can continue. Garcetti, who I think is going off the loony bin in Los Angeles, you know, he hears us. He hears us, John. He hears the people of Los Angeles County. Nothing's more important than hearing people.
Los Angeles County just actually came out a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
The sheriff's department did, and say that they weren't going to back Newsom in doing anything that Newsom wants to do, which I thought it makes sense. Like it makes sense in these places of unrest.
Yeah.
It's because nobody agrees with anybody else. You've got these tyrannical mayors and governors saying one thing, and the normal people are going, wait, you can't just take my right away.
Right.
You can't force the sheriff's department to go door to door and make sure everybody's wearing a mask inside.
Absolutely.
Like, do that? That's
And
against the Constitution.
Yeah, exactly. And this is so important. We could go on about the New Mexico governor and, of course, de Blasio, who's also a wonderful piece of work, I'll say, in regards to, going to a gym during the pandemic and all that kind of stuff and, flouting his own rules. We'll go on and about that. But I think your point is so well stated, because this also, we talk about what you just mentioned, the rights are being taken away. Governor Cuomo, there was a huge Supreme Court ruling. When we think about that, it was 5-4. It really should have been 9-0. And the reason why I say that is because you have First Amendment. The First Amendment is so, so vitally important, because it not only protects freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of press, and freedom of religion. It allows people to congregate together, come together without the government imposing their laws and imposing any kind of restrictions on that. And really what was happening in the state of New York, particularly in Long Island, because this is where this was happening, was very interesting. The religious assemblies there wanted to get together during the pandemic. Now, they were going to do this responsibly. I want to make that very, very clear.
Absolutely. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Responsibly or not responsibly,
Mm-hmm.
it reads, you have the right to assemble.
Assemble. Exactly.
Period. There's no comma. There's no hyphen. There's no unless someone says so.
Yeah.
It's a right.
It's a right.
You have a right to assemble religiously, unreligiously, however it deems. This is what they threw in your face about the riots
Mm-hmm.
and the peaceful protests.
Yeah.
Right to assemble. You can
Exactly.
all get together and go to a place.
The right to assemble.
Say good things or bad things. You have the right to assemble.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Absolutely.
Period.
Exactly. And to be able to restrict and all that kind of, he was basically putting them in a position where their right to assemble was only 10 people. Now that, to me, it was blatant discrimination, because you essentially had others where it was throngs of people, tens if not hundreds of thousands of people could have the right to assemble to protest. Why all of a sudden 10 in a religious setting? Now, we could get to the semantics of that, and we're not going to go down that particular road, but that is a classic case of the First Amendment being violated, and that is what the Supreme Court ultimately ruled. The dissenters, I read the opinion, the dissenters were like, well, he changed his mind. He changed the ability to change. The idea, though, that he changed his mind, he knew he violated the First Amendment, and to your point, John, he violated the rights of people to assemble. It can't be any more clear than that in that, really.
I mean, to be honest, the Constitution wasn't, written for, only smart people to read.
Yeah.
It's a pretty basic document.
Very straightforward.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Like not many people are going to get lost when you're reading the Constitution or the
Yeah.
Bill of Rights. You're not.
Well, some might, but yeah, I get
Like,
your
oh
point.
God, what happened? It's your basic rights.
Yeah.
As a human
Yeah.
in America.
Absolutely.
And that's I'm not pulling the flag, and I'm not
Mhm.
going to be like total patriot here. It's just a simple, basic concept. He was in violation of probably the most simple document ever. That would be like me telling a child, no, you can't do that, when another parent says you can do that.
Yeah.
Now we look like fools.
Mm-hmm. You don't know which way is up.
Because you're not on the same page.
Exactly.
I think it's a good analogy. To the Constitution says that we can do these things, and these fools are coming along playing the other side like, oh no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You're a fool, because we have a living document that says we can.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I know people laugh and scoff at it, and it's people keep bringing up the Constitution. It's important.
Oh yeah.
It's why we're free as a country. That's why you can spend 11 hours on your cell phone and not care about anything else, because you're free.
Yeah.
Other countries don't work like that.
No, they don't.
In China for 4 years.
Why do you think? Why do you think the U.S. Constitution has been so incredibly successful? You think about the time in which that was written. They had the Articles of Confederation, of course, and that didn't work. That did not work, but the U.S. Constitution did.
A domination of rules.
Yeah.
That didn't work at all.
And yeah, exactly. But you're talking about, like, if you think about this, the U.S. Constitution has, in one form or another, been copied or replicated across the entire world. Why? Because it works.
Well, and also across the states, because each state have constitutions.
Absolutely.
So if you want to know where your rights stand, check out your state constitution, because that'll help too.
Absolutely.
And some in Democratic states are actually better than in Republican states. So you actually have more rights in Democratic states than you do in Republican states per the state constitution.
Exactly.
It's
that document, I cannot overstate this enough, John. That document not only has been copied so much, and the framework has been copied so much here in our own states, but it's been copied everywhere around the world. Those that love freedom and those that love democracy look to the U.S. Constitution, because they see what the greatness of that document guarantees for its people. And that is the most fundamental change. Think about this. Back when the American Revolution had happened, 1776 to 1785, right? You have that war, it's over. They're free from British rule. Prior to that, it was all monarchs. It was all one party, all kings, all queens, whatever the case was. And then all of a sudden, these men come along, they disagree with the king so much so that they put their own lives on the line. They end up winning a war. Okay, now everything hits the fan, right? We've got to come up with a system of government that allows the people the right to freely assemble, that allows the people to elect their own servants, if you will, to the government, to voice their opinion. That is amazing.
And to be honest with you, the Constitution allows us to split and create two countries if needed. Literally does. That's what the Civil War was all about.
Yeah.
It worked within the time frame. We had two different. Do we want to go back there? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Ideals, right?
Yeah.
And we had a war. And then it seemed to work out, probably not really well. I mean, there were a lot of people, it took until like 1960 to get their act together. Yeah. But we don't need to throw shade on everybody.
Yep.
That was a Chris Rock thing, by the way. Chris Rock reference. Just I know my history, but I know my comedy background. So it's simply like if this country can't agree, there can be a point where it can happen. But it's not going to happen if the country doesn't believe in what the founding is. And that's where we're kind of talking about the Constitution. That's kind of the battle we're in. We have I'm sure you know the New York Times put out the 1690.
Our 1619 project. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow, thank you. I appreciate you.
Yep.
I knew of it. I didn't know exactly what. Then you get two aspects of
Yeah.
1976 versus that, because it's just, hopefully, just to end this constitutional thing, because we could talk about the Constitution, we already do, forever. But
Oh
just
yeah.
knowing your history and loving your history and understanding that there is good and bad.
Yeah.
We just have to realize that it's about the people.
Absolutely.
No matter how bad it was, we've always overcome the crap that we had before.
Yeah. Exactly.
We've always been forward thinking people. And my friends today, I bet you if I lived in 1920, I wouldn't have the same friends that I have today.
Absolutely.
I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
It would be socially unacceptable for me to have the friends I have today. But in 2020, I can have the friends that I have because I like the friends that I have.
Exactly.
And I choose to have them.
Exactly.
That's a difference than 1920. You probably weren't allowed to do that.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And again, I think it goes, we talked about this before too, John, where we have a governor who ultimately knew he was in violation of the First Amendment and changed his mandates or whatever the case may be to keep his people safe or whatever. He changed it, and it was way out of bounds. Way out of bounds. He knew it, and he hasn't fessed up to it. And this is where I think the theme of this podcast, today's episode, really is so vital. Why don't you go ahead and pull up that video that you have of this Illinois doctor who I give a ton of credit to, because this is a woman that talks so much about integrity. And
this is in April, just so everybody knows. I want to clearly, sorry, I have to put it together. Here we go.
Information at my disposal at this time. I know we have had people of all age groups die. I just want to be clear in terms of the definition of people dying of COVID. So the case definition is very simplistic. It means at the time of death, it was a COVID positive diagnosis. So that means that if you were in hospice and had already been given, a few weeks to live, and then you also were found to have COVID, that would be counted as a COVID death. It means that even if you died of a clear alternate cause, but you had COVID at the same time, it's still listed as a COVID death. So everyone who's listed as a COVID death doesn't mean that that was the cause of the death, but they had COVID at the time of death. I hope that's.
And B, that makes me angry because they've been selling this.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Since the start. Yeah.
But this was in April. This is even now. She said this in April, and the news never reported it.
Yeah. Only the local state probably did report it.
I literally found this today. It happened in April.
Yeah.
I've been looking for stuff like this for months.
Yeah.
It appeared today.
Yeah.
So just going backwards of all the stuff that we've gone through as a country, she's explaining it 100.
Yeah. Oh, very clearly. Yeah.
Very clearly.
Very clearly. Yeah. I give her credit for that. Yeah.
Yeah. If I tripped down the steps and hit my head and died, and I had COVID at the same time, guess what I died from?
Yeah.
That's a little weird. Matt, please let's move on to the next thing because it's even weirder.
Oh, it gets even weirder, John. I mean, this in and of itself is just astounding to me because this is from the New York Times. They have been tracking this. More than 100,000 U.S. coronavirus deaths are linked to nursing homes. And this to me was sad. It was sad when I saw it. And it got me angry. You and I were texting back and forth about this a lot this week. We were trying to figure out a way to present this well to our viewing audience. And
Two noobs have never seen this much rewrite.
Yeah, I mean, it has been all over the place for us this week, but it is something that we really wanted to bring to all of our audience because
Absolutely.
look at this United States and just look at the number of percentages across the entire United States in terms of deaths in nursing homes. And you could see this affects red states, this affects blue states. This, of course, I don't buy at all because this is where it first started in New York, is where I'm pointing, where it's only reporting 21%. I think that's much higher than what is anticipated because if you look down south in my state where I'm living, Pennsylvania, 60% of all deaths that have had COVID have taken place in a nursing home. Governor Wolf should be flatly ashamed of himself for putting people in harm's way, as is the New Hampshire governor. That is inexcusable to have an 81% rate. Rhode Island, Connecticut, what are you thinking?
Look
This
at Delaware,
is ridiculous.
50%. You're pointing at the state that I live in right now, 28% atrocious
Yes.
for nursing home deaths for COVID because you can prevent that. That is a hospital atmosphere.
Yes.
They should have been protected. Let me just real quick, we did some data on Arizona, even though it's blacked out. Arizona seems to be that state that doesn't like to report anything properly. Thanks, Fox News. They don't like to do anything properly, but we did the math on Arizona, and that's 24%.
Mhm.
Alaska, Hawaii, it's Alaska and Hawaii, seriously. They don't even have data. Very low. It's extremely low. There are actually two places that didn't kill the elderly.
Yeah. But John,
So,
this is atrocious. This is horrible. This is across the entire country. This is not just red state. This is not just a problem in red states. This is not just a problem in blue states. This is across the entire country. On average, we're looking at about 25 to 50% minimum of deaths happening, COVID deaths happening in nursing homes. This is appallingly bad, horribly mistreating our elderly, those that are in worse conditions than healthy people are. And it goes to show, like, and this has been a problem I think that we need to address and talk about, because if you think about it, this is in the Atlantic. This article here really, and we'll link to us in our show notes, the staggering heartless cruelty towards the elderly, Shai Held. This was written prior to the pandemic. This has been something that I think has really been just kind of, again, for me personally, is like, I can't wrap my mind around this, having a callous attitude towards the elderly. And I'll just scroll down where he writes on the Upper West Side of Manhattan of a friend of his. I said, quote, I heard a guy who looked to be in his 20s say, oh, that's not a big deal because the elderlies they're just going to die anyway. He and his friend then laughed together. Maybe I'm lucky that I had awesome grandparents, and maybe this guy didn't, but what is wrong with people? And again, further on down the quote, to be perfectly honest, and this is awful, but to the young, watching the elderly over and over and over choose their own interests instead of climate policy kind of feels like they're wishing us to a death they don't have to experience. It's a sad bit of fair play. And when I saw that, John, my heart broke. My absolute heart absolutely broke on this.
where you're coming from.
And then it kind of gets, we're talking about, that we'll talk a little bit more about integrity in this podcast, but I'm thinking in terms of like the governors making all these really ridiculous and foolish decisions, to be perfectly honest about.
Yeah, that is really, that's a tough, I can understand, when we first had the conversation, to just be candid,
Yeah.
this conversation about how we wanted to go with this, it reminded me a lot of my life. In my first career, and now in even my second career, and even in my third career, with the podcast, like taking on these things, I've always looked to people that have done it. I always look to experience. I've always seeked out the whys.
Yeah.
And that's something that America, not as people, I'm not saying that the people are wrong. Most people love their grandmother and grandfather. I would say a majority of the country, if they were polled, love their grandmother and grandfather.
Mhm.
I mean, there might be some crappy ones out there, so I'm not gonna say everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, you love your grandmother and grandpa. You learn from them. They were an extra. I know my kids have a great relationship.
Yeah.
With their grandparents. They've learned, they spend time. They miss time during this COVID time. I absolutely know that's true. I hear that a lot.
Mhm.
But they don't get to spend any time
Yeah.
with their parents. But that's very few and far between, not in people, but in the way society is.
Yeah.
And this is more of a plight on society as a whole than it is on individual people. I'm not trying to take a shot at people. I'm trying to take a shot at society because everything's so fast paced. You need 4 cars, you need 6 garages, work. Everybody works. Everybody's got something to do. We always got to be someplace. Nobody ever slows down to think. And to the effect, the elderly get left behind.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
because they want to be left behind or not because someone wants them to be left behind.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
that's where that habit, and I'm sure there's cruelty to elderly. I'm sure. I mean, look at Cuomo, and Wolf.
Look at Wolf. Yeah.
I'm sure there is that. There is some negligence in this world, but I don't think the negligence is as high as it's just so busy.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't take the time to just, and this is it. There's not many countries like us.
Yeah.
Most countries, they sit around a dinner table with their leaders, the wise people.
Yeah.
They're not elderly.
Yeah.
They're wise. They're important. They
Yeah.
need to be at the head of the table.
Absolutely.
Because they know everything.
Yeah.
Because they've lived longer.
Yeah.
That if America could figure that out,
Yeah. Or rediscover it.
be able to rediscover the head of the table and the understanding of, that, and we will definitely understand Matt's upbringing when we have his father on the podcast next week.
Yeah.
We're gonna understand what the head of the table actually means. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
congruently, you will understand what we're talking about. It's very important.
Oh yeah.
Same thing, my father, wonderful man.
Yeah.
You know what? I have a podcast. I say all these things. If my dad disagreed with me, I'd close my mouth and listen to what he had to say.
That's
you know
right.
why? Because he's in charge, not me.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. It's a respect. It's the matter of living. And I'm like I keep wanting to say this because I don't want this to be a everybody's bad kind of thing. It's a retrospective look inside society, and you'll find the better answer to how to make this problem disappear. Basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree, John. I think for me, when I think of the word integrity is all about, it has a root word, and that's integer, and that's one. It's basically, it's something that's singular. It's, this is it. This is, you have your value system, and that's taught down to you from your father, of course, and everything, and you're brought up with that. And when you see these governors flip-flop so many times, you see the devastating effects of it, don't you? I mean, you see the confusion, the outright confusion of people going like, okay, well, where do you go? What do you do? Who do I trust?
And confusion causes fear.
And confusion causes fear, anxiety.
The 100. Confusion causes fear. How do you take control of a situation? What do you think police lights are for?
Exactly.
Confusion causes fear.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Very
you
simple.
do things and make loud noises, you have control of the situation because you already know that you're flashing lights and blinking noises before the other people do.
Absolutely.
It's very simple.
Well, and think about,
it's very simple.
Yeah, and think about this too, John. I'm just going to, again, quick share my screen. This is from the New England Journal of Medicine, right? And I am certain that, let's just say benefit of the doubt, the governors are getting information like this, where, 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 the you've got universal masking in
That's a quote
hospitals
day.
in a COVID era, right? And the pull quote that we both looked at was, "We know that wearing a mask outside healthcare facilities offers little, if any, protection." Well, what are the governors saying? Well, you got to wear a mask. You got to wear a mask. You got to wear a mask. You got to wear a mask everywhere you go. And now it's to a point where they're saying you've got to wear it indoors because they're so afraid of the hospitals being overwhelmed. Now, listen, that's a pro-life position. I appreciate that. But it's also nonsensical because there have been ultimately so many studies, and we can probably talk about this after the holiday break too, John. I think that would be really good because there have been so many studies where, and the New England Journal of Medicine was one of them. That is a world-renowned medical journal. I want to make that very clear. It's not just the United States, it's world-renowned. They're saying that masks offer little, if any, protection. So what do you do to protect yourself during a pandemic? Well, number one, you take D3. Vitamin D3 is vital. It is so important. Why? It provides immunity for your system, and it's also natural in the sun. You get to go outside and take this in every single day. So go outside, take walks. I don't care if it's like 20 degrees out or where you are, John, where it's like 60. Go outside, take walks, get D3. And then on top of that, eat clementines. Clementines are terrific. Or eat an orange every morning. I can't tell you the amount of times every single morning, 1 pill of D3, 2 clementines. That's breakfast for me. I eat that. The feeling I get from my own internal system, it washes out all of any sort of bacteria that I've got in my system. It eliminates a virus. It builds up the immune system in my body. I can't even begin to tell you how vital it has been for me personally to go through and to take this every single day. That is what I would love for Dr. Fauci or any of our government officials to say. Take D3, eat fruit, do all of these things that build up your immune system. That's what's so important, John, during a
Just a point
pandemic.
about D3. D3 is a supplement. It's what you get out in the sun.
Yep.
If you're not out in the sun, I absolutely don't recommend because I'm not a doctor.
Yep.
But I totally, I'm on board with doctors that say that.
Yep.
That's how I'll say that. That if you're not outside all day, totally take a D3 supplement. That's what I've heard that from a ton of doctors.
Mm-hmm.
It's smart. Same thing. Everything you're saying, I've heard from doctors. We're not doctors, so we're not gonna say to do it.
But it's so vital. I think it's so important.
We're following doctors' orders
Mm-hmm.
to do it, and it's something to pass along to people that I bet you if you talk to your doctor, he'd probably tell you something similar to that.
Exactly. And that's what we mean by, you trust people to tell you the truth of what's going on. That's where integrity comes in. John, let's just talk about that for a minute. Let's just talk about like integrity. And like, I would love to know from you personally, who did you look up to growing up that you like kind of grew, like you knew you could trust this particular person? And then let's talk about the opposite too, because, talk about those that you ran across that was duplicitous, that had two different sides. I think that would be really good for our audience.
That's actually really funny. I did, and literally in my head, two people popped. But just start with my father first of all. I mean,
Yeah.
guys have more integrity than anybody I've ever met. He just, dude, he doesn't tell you something and doesn't do it, and that's how I try to live my life. As best as I can.
Absolutely.
One just other quick note, someone I worked with for many years early in my career, a boss of mine, Bob, people who, know me in my younger years, that I had this time. That dude is he's the same person that he was, 25 years ago. He taught me a lot. He taught me a lot about showing up and doing the right thing every day consistently outside of my family. He was the first one to kind of explain that.
Yeah.
And how that works and how I carry myself today is molded very much by those two people. And on the flip side, there was actually the reason I have the life I have. Thank God for this man. This guy was the antithesis of the reverse.
Mm-hmm.
He would preach and not do.
Yeah.
And I realized that that station in my life, I needed to be in a better place because I had a better idea
Yeah.
of how I wanted to present myself.
Yeah.
And when I started to realize that he was the top of the totem pole and he was completely fictitious on the top of the totem pole, and I was here,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm so much better than that. So I really appreciate
Oh,
him
yeah.
being in my life because I was like, I'm so much better than that. I need to achieve more.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
And that's what made me take, some risks, a lot of change.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a really good life now, so I have no complaints about it.
No.
But that when you brought that question up, that was literally that was what popped into my brain. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to share that.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I could go on and on about my father, and we will next week.
We're
But,
gonna do
but no, I would say probably there are two people that I looked at when, that have integrity. One is my current boss, and she is just phenomenal. I know I could go to her with any sort of question, any sort of, concern, and she's going to listen to me, and she's going to offer me not only like encouragement, but sage advice as well. And she's younger than me.
Awesome.
And that says so much about her that I am willing to trust her in that regard and to say, okay, everything she has said, and she would be the first to admit, oh my gosh, don't even look at me, that kind of thing, but she does it out of humility. And that's what I think is so wonderful with that. And then on the flip side, older, I think about like one guy in particular that I had the real fortunate to meet in my church. And that was a guy named Dave, who was older. He knew his Bible inside and out, John. Oh my gosh, just knew it inside and out. And it didn't matter if you were 18 or 80, you were going to be brought in under his tutelage, and you were going to just be accepted as well as who you were and get you better. So and he, unfortunately, he passed away when I was about ready to leave for a trip to the Netherlands on business. And that was just so, like, it was tough and so devastating. He moved to Alabama before he died. But I'll never forget him. I'll never forget him just because of his integrity. On the flip side, though, I've seen the duplicity, and I've seen so much. There was one guy in particular who would say one thing, but if you ever crossed them, if you ever did something wrong, you weren't going to get forgiveness. You were going to get stabbed in the back, and you had to be on your guard against this guy. And ultimately, he ended up getting arrested after stealing thousands and thousands of dollars from a youth sports organization. It was devastating, but it was like that lesson had to be learned for him. He had to learn that lesson,
And in turn, you needed to learn that lesson, and sharing that lesson, I'm sure people are going through these trying times.
Absolutely.
It's forever growing. We all have them. I'm sure we're going to run into more. We're going to see the good and the bad. We're going to learn from more. I mean, there's some people in my life right now I'm absolutely excited to work with and talk to on a daily basis.
Yep.
Moving forward and doing what I like to do is I like to grow. I want to grow inside my company, outside my company. But look, we have a podcast.
I would have thought that 8 weeks ago,
Yeah, and I've learned how to edit, like TV edit from Adam that,
Yeah.
did that for a living. And he is teaching me, and hopefully you guys like the presentation going forward. Yeah. But it's the whole point of you're taking on people that know, especially the elderly, but it's not just that, it's the wise. And that's the point of, because everybody who's old isn't wise, and everybody who is young is not stupid.
Exactly.
Like you will run into, all kinds of people.
Yeah.
To be honest, like my kid is like one of the wisest people I've ever met. Evan, 18. One of the most wisest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
and he's 18 years old, but he has a really good propensity to listen, understand, and be humble.
So, and where did he get that from, though? Right? You know, he got that from you, though, John. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you know, I think about this, you know, in my own life. You know, I've had, I just mentioned that one guy that was horrible. I have a young kid who, at work, who's like maybe in his like early 20s, and I've had the really wonderful opportunity to foster a good working relationship with, and it's like I've had to coach and guide him in his steps, you know, and it's like I live for that because it's like I want him to know this is how you are supposed to act in business. This is how I have done in my business life. It's like, and I've had that happen to me too, where it's like I didn't know in Excel, right? I had no idea how to do a VLOOKUP when I when I jumped into the billing department. I had no clue how to do it. No idea. I ran across a guy who was about the same years as me, a little bit older, who sat and taught me how to do it. And I've never forgotten him. And it's like, I always thank him every single time he and I have a chance to meet. It's like, I cannot thank you enough for the time you've spent with me. And it's like, I know I'm doing the same for this young kid, 20, 21 years old, you know, new job coming in. He doesn't know how to do any of this. And he's looked at me and it's like, this is amazing. I can't believe you're doing all this. I can't believe this either. But at the same time, it's great. You know, it's just passing a legacy down. Yeah.
Giving back is extremely important.
Oh,
It's giving back is extremely important.
and speaking of giving back,
Yeah.
John,
What a segue.
let's jump into this young kid, man. This MVP, I'm nominating him as MVP of 2020. This has been a crap year, but this young man,
wiser and smarter than I'll ever be.
oh,
Watch this video.
let's just jump into this.
Yeah, let's get into this. Not that one. Sorry. Yeah, exit full screen, please. There we go. We're gonna watch this video.
Oh,
Show this kid some love.
Tell us what is Race for 100,000 Meals?
Race to 100,000 Meals is an event where we collect packed snack bags or meals.
Yeah, so how did you come up with the 100,000 meals?
I was kind of just thinking about all of the impacts that coronavirus has made on everybody. People losing their jobs, their homes.
That is my favorite
met
part.
any of the families that have received the meals?
I actually met a woman at one of our events. She grabbed 2 bags, which each had 5 packed bags each in them, and her face just lit up. Really what it's all about is helping people and inspiring other people to spread kind acts.
The really important part that I want to emphasize on that is every bag had a special message. A 5th grader, 100,000 meals, but each bag was individually inspired for the person that picked it up.
John, I have children.
That blows my mind.
I don't think there's nominate the kid for Presidential Medal of Freedom.
I would hope so.
Nominate him. Nominate him right now.
We'll tweet Trump. Maybe he'll get that in before,
I mean, that kid, I mean, that I hope can give
I'm actually
an
doing that
audience.
right now. I'm tweeting that story.
That kid should just be like, there's no words that I can accurately describe the joy that I feel after seeing something like that.
It's so amazing.
For him to take time and to see the devastation that this has been happening all across the entire country. And the fact that he has these snacks, you know, and these meals, and the fact that these people are, their lives are being changed because of this kid.
Yeah, it's a tremendous story. I was so it made me smile, and then I sent it over to you. We just so you know, this podcast is all week long.
Yeah.
I said that
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's definitely something I want to cover. That's just the individuality of it.
Yeah.
It's so, because you could, you know what I mean? Like, you could help, but he didn't just help.
He went
created-
above and beyond.
Yeah, he created the experience. And that, you're right, that kid needs that. These are the people, like, forget Cuomo getting an Emmy. Forget
Yeah.
moron person in the movie that gets an award for something.
Yeah. This kid,
Look at this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This 10-year-old deserves more adulation than a governor that did nothing.
that
Relatively nothing.
I love the fact, not only that, but he, you know, the idea that his ego was getting a little bit ahead. You know, saw it in the video. Ego was probably getting a little, oh wow, I'm hoping so many people. But his parents, what are they doing? They're keeping him humble. They're keeping him grounded. They realize that what this is not about you. This
About
is
helping
not
you.
about you. This is about helping others in a time of crisis, in a time of need. I give a lot of props to his mom and his dad
Absolutely.
for keeping him on the straight and narrow and making sure, look, because you could be Greta and be all over the place and just talk about this and not do a thing. And this kid has done so much to help his community,
Absolutely.
his nation, his world around him, to meet people at their most desperate need. I give the kid, nominate the kid for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He freaking deserves it, John. He deserves
agree.
it. That's an amazing story for everyone to take in this holiday season, that this kid, this 10-year-old, took it upon. He had an idea and his mom and dad helped along the way. Let's face it. He helped them along the way. But it's an amazing story. I'm so glad you shared it for our audience, Johnny. I'm telling you.
Absolutely. So we got one more before we get out of here.
We do. And to kind of lead into my dad's interview for next week, we wanted to kind of bring this attention to the Ramos, or this Ramos Ayala family, who had the opportunity. They were from central Pennsylvania. You know, they're still deployed out there in the Middle East.
Thank you.
They had the opportunity to come together for Thanksgiving. The entire family did. And we'll post this in our show notes. But basically, Staff Sergeant Luis Ramos, Staff Sergeant Evelyn Ayala were deployed along with their daughter, Helen, as part of the 28th Expeditionary Combat Aviation Brigade of the 2nd 104th General Support Aviation Battalion. The father was assigned to a base in Iraq. The mom and daughter were together in a base in Kuwait. So they're two separate countries, but they were able to reunite in Kuwait this Thanksgiving. And not only that, but watch their daughter be promoted from private first class to specialist. They took a lot. There's some coordination of the reunion to take place. Took a lot of time and consideration. Approvals had to be done. But the very fact that they were all coming together for Thanksgiving in Iraq and Kuwait.
What a
story.
beautiful story. And first of all, just thank you, U.S. military. We've seen a ton of changes over the last couple years. How people coming home, people being taken care of much better. We have more stories to come.
USO.
Just a great job to the U.S. military, to the government. We hate to applaud you because you like to stick in there, but we will applaud you. Such an amazing story. Just that a family got to hang out.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people didn't get to on Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really cool that they were able to
come together. Yeah,
which
exactly.
Is just a wonderful story. And thank you for all your service.
Absolutely. Yeah, can't thank them enough for all their sacrifice, and for our freedom, and for us to be able to come together, for John and me to come together on our podcast each week. we want to give that love back, man. So it's like, we can't thank you enough. And we are so excited to announce next week, we're going to be having Major General Wes Craig, retired, the U.S. Army, retired, joining us for a very special interview. And he's my father. And we're going to be going into a deep dive into his career. And we really hope that it helps anyone that's currently serving to hear from him and his life and what he's gone through. And we have some great questions lined up. We want to get into his mind too, and what he's up to, what he's been doing, how we can help the military as well. Right, John? I mean, we're just doing a lot for this.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about the reconstruction of the VA. We're going to be talking, we want to know what his mindset was when he got in, and what it was his mindset when he got out, and what did he learn, and what
not only that, I should say, he's retired a couple different times. So he got in, for 30 years, retired, then came back in, and then he was pulling a Brett Favre a little bit. So it's kind of like, whether or not he's going to retire or not. But yeah, it was really
he's
great.
a well-respected man, not just in this small community, but he's a well-respected man in many communities, and it's super excited to have him.
So excited. Yeah.
Super excited. Like it's gonna be an interview of a lifetime for me and Matt. I know.
No, for sure. Yeah.
So
So we're gonna be looking forward to that next week. So John, where can people find us?
Oh, we've got some exciting news, but just to start off our video, you can find us on YouTube, BitChute, and Rumble. Also social media, you can find us at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And all of a sudden, through some long nights, you can find us on Podbean app audio, and also we've been accepted to be on Apple Podcasts.
Whoa!
Search TwoNoobsTalking 215-512 on Apple Podcast, and we can be in your ear or in your car or on your iPhone. Super excited about that. Recording an audio podcast along with a video podcast is probably the hardest thing we've ever done. So we appreciate anybody who is listening, anybody who is watching.
Yep.
It does not matter. Like we said last week, it doesn't matter. Like us, hate us, comment, subscribe, rate us, do
notification bell.
Help us. We enjoy having these conversations, and hopefully people enjoy it. And we'll get better, and we will figure it out. But just appreciate all the love that we got, that Apple even gave us a shot.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So let's see where this goes.
We'll see where this takes us. That's for absolute certain. Should also mention too, our show notes. Our show notes will be posted. You can find it on TwoNoobsTalking.wordpress.com. We'll have links to all the articles that we listed tonight in our podcast. And we hope that we hope that those resources will help you and encourage you along the way more than anything else. So with that,
let's just end it like we end it. Hey, Matt, go down
the rabbit hole. I'll try not to go down the rabbit hole, Johnny. Talk to you all next week. Take care.